Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But it comes at a price. Samantha Horwitz and John Salerno work with police departments across the country to bring valuable recovery, insight resources, and workshops. A Badge of Honor TV brings those professionals to you so we can come together and revitalize communities through a better understanding of what's at stake and what's required for repair. So take a load off and turn up your TV. It's about to get real.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam on Mental Health Monday. We are powered by the OBBM Network, and you can catch us on all your streaming platforms, whatever your favorite one is. Except, hey, Sam, how's it going?
Good. You forgot except.
except. Yeah, you know, and it's not only us. A lot of people are getting in, and we can address that. You know, this AI crap is bouncing people off YouTube. It's bouncing people off Facebook. First, you know, I can understand if it was explicit or if something was really warranted, but, you know, people are getting bounced all over the place, or they're getting restricted because a word is being captured or a meme is being captured. And it's just crazy. There's no background. There's no double checking on that. And they immediately wipe you off the social media platform. That's happening all over the place. You know, AI is good, but, and it's a lot of fun to play with, but you know what, when it comes to these networks, it's just damaging so many great platforms. And like just with us, it's damaging ours on YouTube. Before we begin, Sam, you know, first responders throughout our country serve us each and every day, and they get that mental health. They have those mental health issues, those traumatic incidents, and sometimes they plague hard, and sometimes, you know, people don't know how to deal with them. And I think Dallas lost a firefighter today. You know, don't know if it was by his own hands or medical conditions brought on by stress, you know, because the all that cortisol that dumps into your body affects your kidneys, your liver, everything else, your cardiovascular system. And, you know, we die at an early age because we don't know how to control it, and we don't know how to fix our mental health issues. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the Dallas Fire Department on the loss of one of their members.
Absolutely. And we talk about mental health and post-traumatic stress a lot. This is what this show does, in addition to the workshops inside, working directly with first responders. And our guest tonight, well, he is no stranger to the battlefield, the like literal battlefield, and then the battlefield we call Washington, D.C. and Texas and beyond. We'll get more into that. But without further ado, we want to bring on Doc Pete Chambers. He is a warrior for not only our service members still in uniform, those veterans that served honorably, and now Texas. Doc, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV.
Welcome.
Good to be here, Sam and John. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Before we get too deep into it, just tell everybody watching and listening on their favorite podcast app all about you.
Sure. I'll do the 40,000-foot view story. It's you know, it started a while back. I'm 60 years old, so I've had multiple different kind of careers within the same uniform that I wore as a soldier. I was a soldier in 1983. Ronald Reagan was the president. I was an infantry kid. They sent me to Fort Benning, Georgia, and I learned how to carry a rifle and a rucksack and dig holes. And we didn't go through a lot of war at that time, but I learned how to become a warrior. All my instructors were Vietnam vets. And so I learned from really good instructors and great men. Did my time, honorable discharge 1990, got into the reserves at that time. I've been in the reserves, active duty and guard, back and forth for over 39 years. Also served as a reserve deputy sheriff in my county back home because I got bored when I came home on leave. And so I did that once in a while. And I'll tell you, it's servants' hearts. You guys understand that. You can't drill it out of someone. We just live it, and it exudes. Whatever branch, whatever service, civilian or military, you just want to be there for people. It's the center of gravity for us. So then my dad was a small town doc. He was a World War II and civil. He fought in a communist civil war in Europe. I helped to fight that, and Cold War era. And then he instilled in me hey, we give back to this country. So I joined the Army, and then got out, became a doctor, a physician. Wanted to be a family doc like him and work in emergency room. I enjoyed the excitement, but I was also a SWAT team doctor. I went through SWAT training and became a SWAT doc, and that was great. But then 9/11 happened. And then I came back into active duty. So it took me a while. It takes a while to assess back to active duty from the Guard. And I got back on, and I was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I was the oldest guy to go through the Q course to become a Green Beret at age 45, going through selection where everybody else is 20 something years old. They wanted to send some doctors through. I was the first one, and they sent me, and I became the first doc to start the Q course and finish it in its entirety. Although it took me 3 go rounds because I got hurt once and I got into an argument with a cadre, and you can't do that. I had to recycle. And then finished that up 2015, came to the Texas National Guard for my last 8 years of my career, and served as a flight surgeon and also as a special operations guy on the border, Operation Lone Star, which was Texas response to the lack of government response, federal government response during the Biden administration. So we held our own there, and we can get into the details of it. But that's my story. After that, I left in 2022. I was a whistleblower for Senator Johnson when the shots came along, and I testified in SEALs versus DOD, and when you go up against the DOD, they don't like you too much. So I went ahead and got out. I had my good 20 years. I got out and going into counter human trafficking, and we also we still do it, disaster relief, North Carolina, the floods in Texas, fires, you name it. We send teams out. We've got a couple trucks, and we go and we respond because we can live in a world of chaos and control the controllables that we can. So that got me to where now I'm running for governor, and that's a whole nother story.
Well, that's a very impressive servant's heart that you have to keep going as much as, because I watched some of your podcasts. I know like you had some internal battles about being a doctor and going back out into the field, and they were like, no, you're a doctor, you're not going back out in the field, and your persuasion finally got him to make you the first one.
That's right, John. That was the reason why the program started, to allow doctors to go. I've been a doc since 2003 with Special Forces, the Army, Green Berets, but they didn't let me go to the course. And I said, if I'm always going forward where the battle is, where the patients are, then can't I have the same training? They finally let me go. And it's just the persistence. It was 2010 by the time I got to go to selection. So yeah, it was and it was worth it, because the hardest thing I've ever done at an older age. But it was worth it because it brought me straight to the battlefield and exactly where I needed to be. And then we developed more units like that could go be closer to the X, where people were getting shot. And as soon as you get a hand on the bleeder, it typically is better when you get somebody to. We've got the medics and they do a great job, but I can take them from the battlefield, jump on the bird, fly back, and I don't take the soldier out of the battlefield that's there, shoot, moving, and communicating.
Absolutely. Wow. And you talked about very quickly when you got out that you went into combating human trafficking, and I know John's done a bunch of shows. We did a show earlier this year. We did one last year as well. John, did you had specific questions for Doc?
I know you're running for governor, and I think that, I think it is an amazing thing because you have the background. It's going to put our veterans and our first responders first. But you know what? We don't hear how widespread the human trafficking is. We don't see the commercials on the air. We don't see that the sex trafficking and human trafficking are such at high levels nowadays that the drug cartels are ready to say screw drugs because the money's better in human trafficking.
100%.
And it's a shame that, all these protests that we see around the country going against Trump and going against all the Republicans, I don't see one of these Democrats out there protesting the human trafficking aspect of a human being whose rights are being violated each and every minute. Right now, there's somebody being violated, and we should be on the top of our game for that.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And that for me, Operation Lone Star solidified that, because I was on the border watching the numbers coming across every day. Average 12,500 people came across that border every week the state of Texas during the Biden administration. That's the average. Sometimes we have them as many as 17,000 in Del Rio once, and then 12,500 Venezuelans came across at Eagle Pass in 24-hour periods. So you get those big caravans that would come across. My job was to find the needle in a stack of needles, which was, number one, take care of my troop, but also to find the terrorists that were coming across, and then to intercept those that were being moved across for human trafficking, and then hand them over to the right people. Here's the problem that I have, is that when I left the military and I met a lady named Tara Rodas who testified about this in Congress, she said there are probably about 350,000 unaccompanied minors that are missing from the border. Now, if you say that anything about that these people are just seeking a better life, look, I got it. But the problem is that when you're missing, and now we think the numbers are close to 500,000, when you're missing that many children, what is humanitarian about that? There's nothing, because it overwhelmed every system that we have known to man to conduct appropriate, if you're seeking asylum, or if you're migrating or you're emigrating, but I believe that they were used as pawns by certain entities of world economic types, world globalist types. That's what I believe. Right. So I saw it, but then the innocent victims in the middle were the ones that were being trafficked, and it was a heyday, and it still is to some degree. But Trump came in, put a tourniquet on that wound, if you will, but we still got the 10,000 tiny cuts.
Now, let me ask you, with the Biden administration, your hands were tied basically at the border, right? I mean, from what we saw on TV, because we weren't at the border, from what they took a lot of the necessary resources that were out there to combat this and put them on desk jobs to stamp paperwork and to, just realign them. So, don't look behind this curtain type of thing. Is that what happened with some of the stuff that you
100%? Yeah. Customs Border Patrol agents on the border that worked with us are great, and they were doing the best they could. But when they knocked it down to where you had one Customs Border Patrol agent per 5 miles, it's impossible to do the work. They were moved into the areas where the camps were in order to count heads, essentially, right? To gather the information, to get them out so they could put them on buses and then ship them to the interior of the country, which was not the appropriate response, right? I mean, it ended up being a fiasco for everyone. And now we're seeing these cities that are in turmoil where they've been moved to, and Texas has got quite a few. So when I saw that, I knew that there was a problem. I was happy to be on our border. We were serving our backyard, the USA, Texas. But the problem was that the bad actors were taking advantage of the chaos, which they do, right? It's what bad actors do. They look for the seams and gaps of chaos, and they operate in a fully permissive environment, because we don't have enough numbers. Now, for the Texas National Guard, we were conducting what's called LPOPs, listening posts, observation posts. We couldn't physically stop anybody, right? There were no rules of engagement for that. Even the rules of engagement were pretty tight for us to even defend ourselves. That's one of the reasons why I'm running for governor. Is we've got to be a little more. We got to pay attention to the Texas Constitution, which in Article 4, Section 7 says specifically the governor can defend its border, the state's border, from any kind of invasion. It may not be kinetic. That's not. It was very rarely that we get shot at from cartel guys, but it was the numbers of people that was the problem.
And that was stressed. I mean, if you followed local news or you were on any kind of social media, certainly supporting those down at the border, like John and I did. We met troopers. We had troopers in our workshops that were down there and talked about we had one young trooper. I mean, the vehicle chases, like as soon as he got there, he was in vehicle chase, and that was night after night. Yeah. And so what is your plan besides, like, hello, Texas Constitution, we have the right to protect from an invasion? What's your plan going forward as governor to like, not only, it's not changing the rules of engagement, but it's like saying, hey, remember, we have rules of engagement.
Yes. We do, because right now the border, and it's better now, like I said, the numbers are better, but during that time, and we don't know who's going to come in after Trump. I have to think proactively. We call that left to bang theory in the military. Before the bang, the IED in the road. We have to think before it. So for me, I don't sit on the fence with things. Some people joke about it, say, well, you're quite the action figure. Yeah, I am. And so I have to think to prepare for the worst case scenario. Now, if we're ready for the worst case, we can handle it. So our policies and all those things that I borrowed some of them from Alan West, who ran last time, a lieutenant colonel that ran in the last primary 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. He is a good friend, and we talked about it. We shared it. And even when I was on the border, I briefed him about it. And we talked about the specifics to help him get him into office. Now he's helping me. It's kind of funny how this got switched around. But
Alan's a good guy.
He is a great man. Yeah. He's a patriot. And so for us, he said, when I asked him, do you think I should run? He said, you have to run. And I thought he was going to say no. And he said, you have to, because we got to keep the pressure on. The politics hasn't changed. It's stale. And the country's national security issues right now are extremely tenuous. You've got to be in there, Pete, and you got to push. So we continue to push, and that's where we are right now, currently a forcing function. So there were some House bills that we were working on. I was, as a soldier, helping to supply information for it. One of them's House Bill 4914 to build up the State Guard, to take not the National Guard, the State Guard. Okay, so there's a difference. And so Texas is one of 16 states that has a State Guard, which is like a militia. It's actually an authorized state militia by the state. It falls under the Texas Military Department. Those are all made up of former law enforcement, former military, and former civil affairs types that, hurricane happens, hand out sandwiches and blankets, but more than that. But Texas's State Guard is not very robust. Florida's got an extremely robust one. I want to build it up so we have a battalion of former law enforcement, a battalion of former military. That's 600 members. And so that we can take those people, number one, it serves two purposes. One is, as we all know, when we get out of uniform, that's when most of our problem sets happen, is we're used to this high tempo, we're used to this service mentality, and we can't do it anymore. A lot of guys and gals, they get out, they go into, okay, well, what am I going to do now with my life? I've got my retirement. What am I going to do? Give them an opportunity to volunteer for the Texas State Guard under 4914. It's going to be built up, and we will have our own air branch, maritime branch, ground branch, so that each one of those can serve in the same capacity in a volunteer state. So that if we do have a problem, when Sheriff Coe, let's say, for example, out of Kinney County calls me and says, hey, Doc, I need some help down here. We've been with him before. Kinney County is a small county down by between Eagle Pass and Del Rio. He's got 6 deputies. He can't handle the load when 6 deputies meet 1,000 people. Right. So we can then flex people that way who have the TCOL, Texas Council on Law Enforcement credentials, to then be able to go on and to affect change and arrests if they have to. He gets into chases all the time. Bailouts you were talking about, he's done hundreds of them in that county with 6 deputies. And
yeah, that's a great point. We got to take our first break. When we come back, let's talk about how that tempo in Texas is changing, because, I'd say over the past week, not only nationally, but here in Texas, we've got hot topics dealing with Sharia law. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Stay tuned, everybody.
All right.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Hey guys, we are super fans of Patriot Mobile, and Patriot Mobile, thank you for what you do. I've got it scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So when you switch to Patriot Mobile, use promo code BADGE, you can get a free month of service. But hey, we're going into the holidays, and who doesn't want a free gift, including a phone? Yes. So I'm going to switch it up here. We're going to take down this ticker and put up this banner. Right now, if you call Patriot Mobile 972 Patriot, use promo code HOLIDAY25, you will get 2 free months of service. That's 2 free months of service to try it out. Yeah, huge. Plus, They're giving away a Samsung A16, I think it is, phone. But make sure you tell them a badge of honor sent you when you call them up. And you know the best part, John? When the person at Patriot Mobile answers the phone, it's Patriot Mobile, how can I help you? They're not sending people anywhere to any other country. They don't have, 24/7 from other countries. It's
Yeah.
right here. They're right up the road from me. And we are we've been blessed to be Patriot Mobile customers since 2021, guys. 2 free months of service, a free phone. Doesn't get better than that. 972 Patriot. Use promo code holiday25. Tell them a badge of honor sent you. Now back to the show.
All right, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, with our special guest, Dr. Pete Chambers, running for governor next year. He's a true patriot. He has an extensive military and law enforcement background, along with being a medical surgeon. You have a genuine heart for service. And before we left, we were talking about the state guard, talking about the National Guard, talking about the border, a little bit of human and sex trafficking, things that are on the top priority list for you.
For the state.
For the state.
Yeah.
Well, your top priorities. And I was thinking about this on my way home today when I was reading over some of your bios, and I love your platform. I love what you stand for. Putting our veterans and our first responders first is the priority in my eyes, because they've given back so much. With mental health, we're giving people SNAP and food stamp programs that are generational, that are making $5,000 a month on food stamps when we have our veterans sleeping in the streets. Unacceptable for me. And that's why I'm glad you, who's seen it, you have that heart for service, and I feel something can be done about it. And I think that's on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, the priorities of work are dictated by any commander, essentially. That it's the end state is, you have to kind of set the tone. And when I talk to the state DPS headquarters for different things regarding human trafficking and countering it, it is there's a list, and that's set by the commander in chief of those forces. That is the job description of the governor, not lieutenant governor. Different story. They heard the cats in the House and the Senate. But for me, people say, well, why don't you go after lieutenant governor? They have more power. It's not about power. It's about service. And so I don't seek things because of that. It's more of an executive position that will act for the citizens. That's why I call it the senior public servant job.
Yeah. Let me ask you another question on, I want to jump off the human trafficking for one thing, because this is a bill it's going to be coming out, I think, January 4th, with the Delta 8, the Delta 9, the THC, and the hemp, the cannabis bill. Fitzpatrick vetoed it. Fitzpatrick pushed it to make it totally illegal in Texas. Governor Abbott vetoed it, but I think it's going to end up going January 4th to another session. And, when we talk about these things helping on our veterans who are battling either mental health or battling Agent Orange or battling the cancers, what's your view on that, if you don't mind me asking? Yeah,
well, from a medical standpoint, the human body does have receptors specifically for what is created in the THC. It is a controlled substance. Understand that. And the Drug Enforcement Administration really controls the scheduling of all narcotics or all medications. So that is a controlled substance. The problem lies in what I call the Hegelian dialectic, which is you get, when you see somebody getting emotional about something, they're generally not serious, or they've fallen under prey of that dialectic, which then allows them to make decisions that are poor for the totality. Now, there are ways to test THC. It just hasn't been brought online. They will come online. And as a governor, I can support that, because as a law enforcement officer, I can tell you when somebody was driving 25 in a 55, generally, they're smoking hooch, right? You've come up, you're like, okay, bro, check it out. You're doing 20, right? But you can't test it, right? So you can only say, well, driving under the influence of something, but okay, I don't have anything quantitative to test it. That's coming out. That's gonna happen. So it does help the law enforcement side. But from the side of the soldier, for me now, the people that I had to deal with, and I've had numerous ones that called me, and I had to talk them off the ledge in the middle of the night. That after deployment specifically, when you come back from a hard one, that's when that stuff comes. I know that the war is not over when I get back home from downrange. So I've lost a few, so it's hard because you try to talk to them, and then that I lived on the base. I was their father, if you will, and they didn't want to talk to the shrink. They wanted to talk to the doc that was one of them. So that's why be a Green Beret. But that there's a place for that. But here's where the dialectic allows it to slip: is when you go to one of these places, these shops, and you see something called kratom, Kratom. That is a derivative. That is extremely dangerous, but it's something that people can get in pipes, and it's legal because it's not the actual THC, and so there you go. That's something that has slipped through, and that's the synthesis, right, of a dialectic. Something is synthesized, created, that is more dangerous for the public and is not being talked about. So those are the things we got to watch for, because while everybody's arguing about whether hemp is look, my first cowboy rope was a hemp rope, right? You can make rebar from hemp, and it's just,
right. Everything.
So you can do a lot of things. So there's a need for the market. We just have to make sure that the prescription comes specifically for that, and it's not just given out like in Oklahoma, which is my Homa record before I came to Texas in '97. It's really decimated some of the rural communities, because my little town, 3,000 people, has 5 shops in it, and so it's out of control. So
it needs to be proper regulation. I believe in proper regulation.
Yeah.
Proper regulation, but not government overreach.
Right.
Exactly.
But if you're letting those things slip through, right? Those kratom, I'm just going to use that example. That is a problem, because that was something that was synthesized by the lack of understanding. And so you've got to have, when you're sitting down in your task force for this particular item, you sit down and you have a dialogue, not a dialectic. You don't throw gummy worms across the room. You don't act like a child. You actually, serious people do serious things. We talk about things. We bring in all the factors, the pros and the cons, and then we find the happy medium. But it's truly the system that's already there is enough. It's just, how do we then enforce it? And then on the law enforcement side, how do we keep the public safe? And that is giving them the tools to then, it's going to be a blood test. So they're going to have to be blooded. So you got to drive them into the emergency room, do all that stuff. They won't be able to blow into because it's not coming out of their lungs. But it's a way to test quantitatively. Are they using it illicitly? Because any drug, you and I both know, oxycodone, for example, somebody could be taking too many of those. We can't control how many they take, right? But if they're operating a vehicle in, not in accordance with penal code, then it's a requirement for, an arrest, and we don't want to have something that slip through and people get hurt. So that's having that knowledge kind of helps, and it helps me to build how I'm going to build that task force. A governor in the state of Texas can build a task force of we don't want lobbyists, we don't want special interests, we want citizens that understand the problem, some law enforcement, some doctors, and sit on this task force. 24 people is what it's authorized, and so you can sit down and create the courses of action, right? The sensible, common sense courses of action.
All right, that is makes sense to me. What about you, John? It seems so simple, and yet
it really
clouded up
really
on a daily basis.
They make more of it than it really is, right? But when you talk about oxycodone, when we're talking about the fentanyl crisis, we're talking about, there's a lot of other drugs, even prescription Percocets, these painkillers that we're just shoving into people's mouths because of big pharma, when a veteran could be prescribed either medical marijuana or whatever it is to ease those ailments. And I think that's a big thing to look at, instead of
it's clouded behind a lot of money and doctors.
A lot of money. Yes. The SSRI market, when you look at SSRIs, the fine print, you got to read the fine print. I haven't seen one yet that doesn't say way down on the bottom, the side effects, suicidal ideation. So why are we giving that to veterans? Right. Exactly. And that was what they tried to prescribe me when I came back from one of the bad trips. They try to say, oh, you need to take this SSRI. I'm like, no, I just need to get out in the fresh air and just experience life and go to work. That's really what we do.
Keep my purpose.
Exactly. We got to take our next quick break here. When we come back, we got to hit 2 hot topics.
So
we got to talk about Epic City, and we got to talk about property taxes. Okay. So Epic City property taxes, We'll be back. Stay tuned after these
All right.
messages.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, with our special guest, Dr. Pete Chambers, running for governor of the state of Texas in 2026. He is a war hero, a veteran, all-rounded man for service, and we're honored to have you on the show. Before we left, we went off track a little bit. We were talking about the THC stuff and different laws in Texas, but I know you, Sam, you wanted to hit on the mosques that are being built, the 48 mosques that are in Texas, the Sharia law, and what is that? How are we doing this, where we're building all these religious mosques in Texas?
No, we're allowing them.
We're allowing
them to be built.
This sounds like sleeper cells all over again that are ready to pop up.
Yeah, it's 48 in the Dallas area, and there's hundreds in the state totally. Fort Worth, Houston is another stronghold, and I don't know how many specifically. But the problem is that especially when you look at the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, we just declared in the state of Texas a FTO, Foreign Terrorist Organization, something that my team briefed the governor on and his staff mostly 4 years ago when I was on the border. Those designations are important because that's what stops then and it allows for investigations to take place. And then who is connected to what, and what's the matrix, or the who are they connected to? And then we start diving into that. We start finding some of these names that are signed or been attached to these particular entities downrange, and bringing in radical Islam. Radical Islam, what it looks like when they enforce their own Sharia law. And now the governor has declared that Sharia law is outlawed, but it's not. The bill that was pushed through only outlawed certain practices of Sharia law, but it never mentioned the word in the actual bill. And so when you look at it, you can't just say, I'm going to take it for your word. You got to read the actual bill. And then you see it's just certain practices. You can't stone people to death. Well, great. Okay, thanks. We got it.
Yeah.
So right. So it's that simple. So just look at the verbiage, and then you'll see what was done. It's a half measure, and we can't go with half measures. You got to be all or none, and that's where the action comes in. So we've declared it now. So let's get some teeth on this thing, because if we don't, do we have 4 more years? I don't know. I mean, I know what happened to London. I talked to a guy over there, a member of parliament, and he's warning me, don't let this happen in your country. I talk to him regularly. He's a member of parliament, and he says London is what we call now Londonistan, because it's people hacking, people on the streets with machetes and getting away with a lot more, because he said, you guys have the Second Amendment. That wouldn't happen over there. But we don't want to get to that point where citizens have to protect themselves from something that's been radicalized from within.
Yeah, and I will say the numbers just so we're 100% clear. There's 200 mosques throughout Texas. We are 50 shy of what they have in California right now. And as Doc, you alluded to it, it's reading the fine print. So when I see folks that have really huge numbers, I'll say it in social, get on and say how wonderful Governor Abbott is and what he's doing and banning this and outlawing this, I'm like, full time out. You have not done your homework. Shame on you. Stop telling the public and the MAGA crowd and the conservative Republicans, that constitutional Republicans, whoever you are, okay, that we've got a handle on it here in Texas.
No.
We don't. It's out of control. A retired Plano police, I think it was a
Right.
sergeant, was on the floor of the Texas House explaining what is going on in Plano. And as far as a lot of the folks looking into it, Plano, Irving, Houston, they're after Dallas now. These cities are already gone. I've seen it myself in Wiley, some pretty scary stuff. Like John and Pete, Doc, you know what I'm talking about with hypervigilance.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
After we're retired, okay, after we're off the battlefield.
Right.
There are certain things from our experiences that make the hair stand up on the backs of our necks, okay, that get us right back into, I now feel like I have to have eyes in the back of my head. And what my husband and I witnessed, it was wow. So this is very real. What is your specific plan for this?
Well, as the job description number 2 for governor is commander in chief of all those forces, to include DPS, Department of Public Safety. And so in order to do that, you have to set, once again, the commander's intent to say, we got to put these on the top burners, if you will. Because I've talked to them about what their major crimes are in the state of Texas and where they focus their crimes. And I don't, it's nothing against the DPS. This is the commander's intent. So we've got to set the tone from the top. If you're the commander in chief, that's your job. And so you've got to understand the threats and then be able to fight that. So in order to do that, we've got to go really, they've had 11 years to do it. All right. So if it's not happened by now, are we going to trust that the words that are coming out are going to be enacted upon? And I don't know. I don't want to find out the hard way. That is probably 90% of why I'm here and not just doing counter human trafficking, which my team is still doing at this point. I'm in the headquarters trailer at our compound. But for us, the baseline is safety, right? I mean, you can't do anything else. If you want financial security, we're the 9th or 10th largest economy in the world in the state of Texas, yet we don't have, right? We've got to have that baseline of security so that those things can continue, right? So that's what I do now. Right above that, I have financial security, which is taxes and all that, and I'm sure we'll touch on. But that is really it's got to be a cornerstone. It has to be a cornerstone. This is a wartime, if you will, although not kinetic, a wartime governing requirement at this point. And it's Eisenhower came in after World War II. They picked him because we were in a state of Cold War, and we had to have a president that came in and that took care of it. And he did a good job in that Cold War to set the tone, if you will, for then Reagan to say, "All right, tear down this wall," and communism fell. But the threat hasn't fallen. The threat, the trifecta between communism, radical Islam, and radical United States, talking about the Antifas and all that, those three work together synergistically to destabilize, disenfranchise, and to create a setting for possible color revolution from within this country. So we've got to be understanding of those things, because it goes much deeper than what you just see or what the optics that they'll show you are.
Absolutely. Right. It's all about the optics and, doing the kind of work that you're doing, digging deep, having the conversations. I would imagine you have really, really long days. And so the right fuel is really key. And, John and I, we start the day, and throughout the day, we enjoy our coffee from our partners at East Texas Legends Coffee. And it's founded by Ben and Amanda Holmes, and it reflects their journey from Ben's Marine Corps service and law enforcement career, overcoming post-traumatic stress, and to finding purpose in ranching. Relocating to an East Texas ranch, they identified a need for a local coffee shop and a local coffee brand. Now they're opening their first coffee shop in Lindale, Texas, rooted in faith, family, and community. Their mission: inspire purposeful conversations over coffee. Drink coffee, be legendary. Go to etxlegendscoffee.com. Use promo code BADGE for 15% off. You get delicious coffee, but you also get access to really cool merchandise. And the merchandise, you see our cups here, that John and I have every week. Cheers, partner.
Cheers.
Yeah. Absolutely delicious. I am a fan of Diablo, which is their serious dark roast, and I do a little mixy with my maple spice, or sorry, spiced maple. I always get that wrong because I grew up like
As long as you didn't say pumpkin
Quaker
spice,
oatmeal.
you're all good. As long as you're not putting any pumpkin spice in there, then you're not a real coffee drinker.
There's no pumpkin spice. Just saying, it's overrated.
All right.
Go with the spiced maple. But you got to have that punch of the dark roast. So I mix it together. Whether you want ground, whole bean, or they even got the pods, you can enjoy it anytime, anywhere, and take it to go in their tumblers. So etxlegendscoffee.com, promo code badge for 15% off. Now back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV. Just touching on what you just said, Stan. Patriot Mobile, we have Legends Coffee, veteran run. We have veteran run organizations. This is where we have to really get the community and get the people to start buying locally from our veterans, from our first responders. These homegrown things. Stay away from the Starbucks. Stay away from all this corporate stuff. Buy from people who have served us. Let's serve them back. Let's give back to them.
When you buy from them, it's a give back program.
Yep.
So they're donating to amazing missions. So Pete, you talked about fiscal responsibility, and I know this next topic, property taxes, is big on a lot of people's list.
Right.
We've heard it from the 11 years that we've had. We're going to get rid of property taxes. I mean, there are so many. If you go on X, we've got the litany of posts showing year over year of how the current, I'll call it regime in Texas, has said we're going to eliminate property tax. And yet here we are again, opening those envelopes going, you've got to be kidding me. What is the plan? What's your plan for?
Well, I don't suggest that you do what I did, which was become 100% service connected disabled, getting combat wounds. So don't do it that way. But what I would say is, only wounded once. But what I would say is, this again goes back to that dialectic. So politicians will typically do politician stuff, right? Warriors do warrior stuff. So politicians, this is what they do. They tell you that it's the local municipalities that are taxing you to death, and it's your property taxes, your school taxes, and those things. So it's not us, right? So they point fingers. But the conditions that they set, those conditions that they set allow for that. And here's one of them. One of them is the declaration of an emergency in a county. There are nearly 200 counties in the state of Texas still have some sort of emergency declaration over it. When they do that, that allows another 3.5% increase locally. And they get to do that, and they will. I was on the Guadalupe River, and Kirk County did it immediately. They went, they took that emergency declaration and went to town with it. And then that allows them to continue to raise it. When we look at school taxes, that's one of the bigger components of it. That school tax in Texas, we're number 40 out of 50 in the states as far as education scores. We're not doing very well. We're not very efficient. Abbott received it, the state's score at 41. So he's improved it by 1 in 11 years. So we got to do better. And we've also have to look at the amount of money spent on the administrative costs versus the classroom, what they get. So the administrative costs are 80%. So when we have 1,207 counties, and we are looking at anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000 a year for a superintendent, and some of those counties have one school, maybe 1,300 students, and a football stadium that's built on school bonds in the tens of millions of dollars, we've got to consider that we love our football in Texas, but we got to be frugal with our spending, because these bonds are only markers, if you will, that when they get called in, and there's a guy up in Dallas that talks about it all the time, his name is Mitch Vexler. He's looking at those things. He's sued the state numerous times, doing a great job. And he is saying, and we're looking at it too, is what are we doing here? Why are we, borrowing more money or taking more money from the taxpayers at local levels to build more infrastructure more administrative costs and not really turning it around and being more efficient, right? And saying, okay, well, do we need 1,207 different school districts if you only have one school? Let's try to consolidate those, decrease the administrative costs, and then less school tax. If you don't have kids in school, guess what? For me, you shouldn't be paying taxes. If you're retired, you shouldn't be paying taxes on the school tax. That's a big chunk. And so you just have to look at those little things. And then so our team has built out a white paper. It's on the website, docpetechambers.org. You got down at the bottom there, and you go and look at that white paper, and it's growing, right? The more that we get these 4 different teams, now 5, there'll be another one coming on board. They sit and talk, and these policymakers develop the plan so that we can hit the ground running day one, so we can decrease, without putting the economy on its head, decrease taxes to eventually eliminate taxes. DeSantis is looking at it. Governor Stitt in Oklahoma is looking at it. Why are we still behind the curve? We should be leading that. If we're the 9th or 10th largest economy, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't. And, just to lead in, a passion of mine and John, and why we do this show and why we do what we do every single day is having a passion for our first responders and the veterans that continue to serve. I know you are behind a bill in terms and leading with the mental health and smashing the stigma behind our warriors,
right,
getting the help that they need without going through bureaucratic red tape, with having their confidentiality, basically trampled upon, which keeps people from asking for help. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I tell veterans is, there's no stigma with it. When I went through my process of getting out, and the same thing goes for law enforcement, they get worried because of the red flag laws. And what if I take this, I only call it PTS, post-traumatic stress. It's a disorder if you allow it, but it's, recovery for me, but it's something that there's a stigma there. And that causes a kind of a cyclical, reaction. So you're demoralized, and you end up, sitting at home watching The View, and then you get more demoralized. Right? So, but we got to stop that. We got to look for purpose. So part of it's that bill that we talk about, House Bill 4914, which gives purpose. But then also part of it is, the Texas Veterans Administration has got to be. I went through it myself. I had a fracture in my neck from a bad jump landing. It's not the jump that did it. It was the hard landing. And I had to have surgery. It took them a year to get me in to be seen. Right. And so I used my own personal insurance that I had, because I still had some personal that I was hanging on to. And I used it, and I got it done. And I had surgery. And about a week later, they called me from the VA and said, okay, we got you scheduled for the appointment to get your MRI. I'm like, it's already done. Thanks. I was still working on the border. I was wearing a collar at the border because my arm was going numb, and had it in a sling. So, that's, we've got to care about our veterans, our service members, our law enforcement, our fire department, our EMS. We've got to support them, because that's the front line of everything. That is the baseline for me, again, of security. Because I'm always looking for the most dangerous course of action that the enemy is going to do to us. And like I said before, it's not a kinetic one until it is. And then when it's kinetic, if sleeper cells decide to pop out, I don't know, but you got to be ready for it. And so you got to take care of those people and get them back and rehab them and give them a purpose. And if they're out and they're completely out and they don't want everyone to serve again, that's fine. We got to take care of them. This is what the thing I used the other day up in Lubbock. I said, you wrote a check, whether you're law enforcement or military, you wrote a check that's payable with your life, and you didn't have to cash it. Thank goodness. Some did. I had 21 good friends that I knew that came home in a body bag and a dignified transfer. We've got to give them exactly. They were willing to give everything with that check. And so that's the way I look at it. I'm very passionate about that. That's something that has got to be a baseline when it comes to, mental and physical, but a lot of it's mostly mental.
Pete, what do you see the big issue is? Because with the VA hospitals, not that I go to one or Sam goes to one because we're not veterans, but we hear a lot about it. And as outsiders, I hear all right, this VA hospital is really good, but they are all the way down in Houston. But the Dallas one, it sucks. Why isn't there consistency across the board?
A lot of that's controlled by the federal VA, but my job as governor is also to interpose, if you will, the doctrine of lesser magistrates. If you've read that book, if you haven't, it's a great book. Mark Trujillo wrote it, but it's to understand that my job as governor is to protect the citizens from any federal overreach. That doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes it does. But it's typically done in the lawfare world, right? And litigious, and the taxpayers pay a lot of money for that. So if our federal government can't do it, it's incumbent upon the leader of the state to do it. And it's incumbent upon the leaders of the counties and et cetera down the line, because that's truly where governance should be taking place, is at the local level, right? The different flavors. Texas is like 8 countries. So you've got different flavors. So I want to get that down as low as possible so that each one of those can operate. And then we have to consider, do we develop some kind of state support, because the state does support veterans in a certain act when it comes to education. If you served downrange in Texas in the military as a guardsman, sometimes you get deployed, you get your children can go to college for free. Essentially, they have that for them. So we need to look at that. How do we do that for the law enforcement and the military, Texas National Guard in that case, and State Guard? How to take care of them should they be injured on the job? Should they be sent overseas in combat? Should they pick up a wound on the street of Austin as a PD? We've got to consider all those things to then get them quickly back rehabbed, and not just given an SSRA and say, here you go, here's your psych meds and here's your pain meds. Good luck to you.
Agreed. That happens too often. And just looking at the clock here, let's wrap up with the last question. What can we citizens do to help you?
Vote on March the 3rd. It's the primary. Most people don't think about it because it's the day, that's off cycle, voting. And the 3rd is actually after the 2nd, which is the Independence Day of Texas. So I say the 3rd is Liberation Day. So you vote for me, I go into the pole position essentially for the senior public servant. We'll whoop the heck out of any liberal that comes along, but we've got to get into office so that we can enact some of these things, and then get some serious people up there. Not, I say this, tongue in cheek, but sometimes it's true. It's a current cast of cartoon characters that are in charge of many of our government entities, not just at the state level, but I see it more so in the federal level. But we've got to stop the bellyache and bickering and unite the clans, if you will. If we're going to take it from Braveheart, we've got to unite the clans. I don't care what color your kilt is. If you got common sense, come and vote.
Yeah, amen. And I've got your website up. It's docpeatchambers.org. There's donate.
Yeah, and there's a gift. Yeah, there's a donate page button up on the top right there, and you can also volunteer. We got, I believe, somewhere between 500 and 800 volunteers right now in the state, and we're growing. I just filed the other day, two Fridays ago, so I'm officially filed. Even though we had our treasurer file before me, that's the law. December the 8th is the last filing date for all candidates. So, what
can we do in the DFW area? I know you're a little west, but how do we get you out there in the DFW area?
Yeah, so we've traveled up there, and we're going to go back out on the trail. So look at the calendar on the website, and then when you see that I'm coming to an area, look to that area and go show up, because it's the entourage effect. If a bunch of folks show up and they gets the crowd going, that's what we want. We want that entourage effect to get people to just I'll get in there. I'll just tell truths. I don't ever write a speech. I don't read off a teleprompter, and I'll get out there and just tell some truths, and people will get it, and they'll realize, okay, dude's a real person. He's like us. He's experienced all the things we have. I get it. Yeah, I might have a doctorate degree, but I started out as a private, digging ditches. So, they'll figure it out. I'm just a regular guy who understands a lot because I've been around for a while.
Well, Doc, we can't thank you enough.
I'm going to give you a personal invite. I just want to, before we, I'm going to give you a personal invite on January 24th. I will have Heroes in the Sky, a lot of veterans coming down to Texas Harley Davidson right here on 183, where we're going to donate a memorial for our veterans. I would give you the platform to speak to these veterans' families that show up. The Harley Davidson dealership brings in all their hog members, which are all veterans and first responders. I would love for you to come down. I'll get you the time. And if you want, you can have the floor and address the crowd.
I know exactly where that. Yeah, I know exactly where that one is. So yeah, we can do. I used to ride a Fat Boy, but I sold it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Love to have you there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Harley Davidson. Thank you again, Doc, for coming on. for sharing your
You're welcome.
wisdom, for letting people see like you're real. It's not some campaign poster and, out there floating around. So we wish you all the best. Again, docpchambers.org. Get on there, click that donate button, volunteer, and we will see you out on the road.
God bless you, brother.
Good. God bless you guys.
Thank you.
Take care, Doc.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
That was probably one of the most refreshing conversations we've had on this show in a long time. I'm not leaving this show going, oh my God, I feel so bad. I'm actually feel uplifted and refreshed that Texas has a future.
Yes, and that's what it's about. It's giving Texas a future, because we are stale at 11 years of the same old BS. And I just encourage everybody, you've got to pay attention to what's been going on at the local level to understand why we need someone like Doc Pete Chambers in the governor's mansion. So docpchambers.org, click the donate button, again, volunteer, get out on the campaign trail with him. And you know what else makes you feel good? Exercise. It's good for this. It's good for this. And we're coming up on the holiday season here. Carry the Load. Thank you to Carry the Load, one of our amazing partners. They've got the 100,000 meter challenge going on right now. I think I have something like 53,000 meters still to go.
Wow.
We got started November 11th. It's going through December 11th. So I'm going to hit that 100,000 mile mark like I did last year. So thank you, Carry the Load, for everything good for your brain. Visit our website, abadgeofhonor.org. We've got an upcoming open workshop. Thank you, Garland PD, on Friday, December 5th. So if you are within 2 hours driving distance of Garland, Texas, the police department, and you are an active first responder, get on our website right now. Get yourself a register. Space is filling up. You do not want to miss it. It's 8-hour interactive workshop. T-Cole is included, as well as the all-important meals that we will provide as well. So that, again, at badgeofhonor.org. We are so thankful. We feel so blessed. We want to thank you all for tuning in week after week after week. We're wrapping up season 2 tonight. Season 3 starts in January, but we're not going anywhere, because you can continue to catch up with your favorite episodes throughout the rest of the year, as John and I take a refresh break with our families, as well as getting stuff prepped, because January will be here before we know it. So, John, you are a blessing in my life, partner. I love you so much, and couldn't do this without you. Don't want to do this without you ever. And I just wish you all the best. Thank you to our partners at OBBM, Susan Hamilton, and the entire crew that keep us running. Thank you to all of our social media outlets that let us come on and do a live every single week, with the exception of ScrewTube. Hey, we don't need you. Thank you to all of our first responders who keep our community safe, to all of our veterans who keep our allow us to have this freedom of speech, that fought the good fight, that came before. Thank you to all of our active duty personnel spread out across the globe. We pray for each and every one of you every single day. Super quick, partner. Take us home.
Once again, we want to keep the Dallas Fire Department in your thoughts and prayers through this holiday season. They just lost a member. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy. Be safe out there. And once again, if you could be anything in this world, be kind. Peace.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's. We love everybody. We love all y'all, as we say in Texas.
All y'all.
All y'all.
All you guys. All you guys.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.